I did last week, I did the live, and I forgot to mention this, and I haven't even had a chance to take a look. Is I streamed it on our company page
Right.
versus the personal profile, so I wanted to kind of see the differences. So since there was an error, let me see what happens when I go to LinkedIn. If you go to LinkedIn right now, can you see this video pop up?
I could try. Um,
You might have to go to my profile. Yeah,
let's
we're
see if it
live.
pops.
Okay, interesting. Well, the event
Yeah.
page, the event page doesn't look like it's working. You can see it from my profile.
I mean, it looks like
But
it's there.
yeah. I mean, it'll be there. It's just for whatever reason there's an error at the moment.
Sure.
But we're streaming on YouTube anyways, and this is recorded. And the cool thing about these recordings is we can always post it again on LinkedIn.
Members can kind of
So
access it whenever they want. So that's good.
exactly. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I
So how
just
have you
wanted to
been?
see what that was about. Good, man. It's been an exciting last couple of days. I have a lot of travel just happened and gonna happen. It sounds like. Jen just got back from DC. She was up there doing a Spartan race.
Oh,
So
nice. Okay.
she
Well,
got
we're
back.
going to head to DC next week. So, yeah, it'll be good.
Well, right. What day are you going again?
So, we typically go up the day prior. So, next week, that'll be a Tuesday departure for us. Arrive up there just to kind of make sure everything is set for our day long cohort on Wednesday, the
Wednesday. Okay,
27th.
gotcha. Because I
And
just
so, yeah, we'll spend the day up there knocking, that content out with our new members. And then on Thursday, I think you knew we're headed to the Naval
to
Academy,
Annapolis, right?
and we're going to check out the Alumni Association's new building, chance to check out their conference room, and to see if there's really a way for the Alumni Association of Blue Water maybe to come together and offer some more executive services, right, for their senior leaders.
Yeah, and partnership is what it's all about, and that's kind of what I was getting at is I might be going to DC now on Monday
Oh,
to
nice. Yeah.
to the Rosie Network is I think launching a new program or cohort, and since I went through one of their very initial programs back in San
Mhm.
Diego, and we're huge fans of the Rosie Network, and that for Jen's podcast, Holding Down the Fort, that's in collaboration with the Rosie Network. We interviewed, as well as interviewing you,
Yeah.
and like Toby, we also interviewed current cohort members from various Rosie Network they have
Nice.
programs on bases across the country. So that's cool. So I might be going up to DC on that one, and then I have another program. I can't quite announce exactly what's going on yet, but I might be going to Seattle, Boston,
Right.
Chicago, Denver. So some cool travel plans coming up. I would like to. I'll be going there to give a presentation I've been asked to give for a veterans organization, but I'd like to maybe set meetups and stuff, or maybe give some other presentations while we're traveling. So, and that's because somebody found the YouTube channel, and somebody found us online. So I
Right.
think that same kind of thing can work for you, Mike. The more that we see your insights out there, whether it's the Naval Academy Alumni Association, which I'll nudge any Academy grads to call the Alumni
And for that
Association.
matter, right? I mean, it's a viable message. And just like you're Academy grad, right? I mean,
Yeah,
Army's got them, Air Force got them, all the service academies, right? They all participate in what's their big job for the SAC event, right?
right.
And Blue Water. This is a great precursor event for all senior leaders before they would ever step into an environment like that, right? We help them
Yeah.
and we arm them with the knowledge and the insight on how to navigate that space. So
And
we're
I
excited.
think, and I think that's what brings me or brings us to today's theme is what are the dream outcomes? And I'm going to give me a few minutes here to kind of caveat and couch this to frame kind of the story here, because what we
Hey, and I just
understand.
want to share with the listeners, or whoever's going to be watching this. Scott said he's got some pop-up questions for me, so I have no idea what he's going to ask me. So
Well,
I told him I'm actually excited about this. So, I'll do my best to field these no-notice questions.
well, I wanted to, kind of put you on the spot because we weren't able to grab a kind of last minute guest, and unfortunately, since we're scheduling this all last minute,
Yeah.
I got to give you more of a heads up
No, that's all
in the
right.
future. But either way, I'll just kind of ask you to go back to how you felt when you were getting out of the military, and obviously you can glean from the hundreds of conversations you've probably had in these last 3 years since starting Blue Water. So, you answer however you want, but it'd be good to kind of have someone on the hot seat, so to
Sure.
speak. But, given that a lot of the military transition process, and let's call it transition assistance programs,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a big language guy, and I
Yeah,
think transition's not a good word. You say it's not a good word because that's why you use career progression. Transition is just uncertainty.
I agree.
Um,
We didn't like it.
yeah, assistance. It's like, oh, what are you going to do for me? And that doesn't really help when this is what's the biggest problem you run into people having? That guys don't know what they want to do. Say, hey,
Yeah.
what do you want? What do you want to do? And programs just like a bunch of check boxes. Therefore, it's going to work out. It's like, well, it doesn't necessarily work out that way. And I think we should actually change the A from assistance to avoidance. Like what when we're going through these cookie cutter programs, we're actually avoiding the transition. The whole point of getting out of the military is to stop following the orders, to go find your own path. And so it takes a little bit more, because it's not just a next duty station. These aren't PCS orders. We treat it that way because that's the easy button and that's what we're comfortable
No,
with.
it's what we're wired to do. That's
Sure.
our approach, right? We're
And that makes sense. Hey, how do I translate my military skills to a pretty good paycheck? And that's all fine. And actually, I'm supportive. And that's why, it's like, yes, we need to solve those short-term problems. But there's going to be a time when you get to come up for fresh air.
yeah.
And that's what the whole point is about. I know you want to be excited about military retirement, putting in your paperwork, but I know it's not causing excitement. It's causing more stress. And we talked about this last week. I said, when do guys actually realize how much money they're going to be making? And you're like, it isn't until month 4, 5, 6 when they start seeing the bank accounts add up and noticing the extra discretionary income. And maybe that's one of this times when you can take a breather. But you probably got to wait a couple years till you know if you even like the job, you fit, or aren't the first one getting laid off. So there's a lot of uncertainty in these few years, and that's fine. But what I've noticed over the years working with retirees is that while we might land that first experience and we might love it and be great, we haven't had a chance to really tie it all together and think, hey, what is this all for? What's next? Because the main question I do get is, I don't, or the main statement I hear often is, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. And that's not career related. Sure, you want to have a job and a job description and a paycheck,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really more about like, how do I want to continue to serve? And in that usually comes after the jobs and careers are over. Let's face it, it's when you're more financially independent, or what I like to say is income independent. Maybe that just means retirement. You got more time on your hands to donate your time to the community or whatever it is. But defining, and the reason this comes up is I had a conversation yesterday with a client of mine, Air Force colonel out in Colorado Springs.
Mm-hmm.
And we're, of course, talking about I'm always asking him for feedback. And he was like, hey, Scott, here's the main questions guys have coming out. It's, what do I do about the SBP? What do I do about the TSP? But then what can I do to move up retirement? What can I do to be done earlier? However someone defines that. Is there something so I can spend more time with my kids, so I can start my own business, whatever it is to do that next thing where they can finally actually say, hey, I'm retired. Because while your military pensions are great, sorry, we're just not keeping up with the inflation these days.
Mm-hmm.
And we need these second careers. And even if you saved big amounts of money in thrift savings plan, you comfortable using it to live off of right now? Probably not. You're probably going to want to keep saving even longer and longer. So we need to have a longer outcome time frame to kind of think of, all right, hey, what's this next phase? I like to think of it in phases. And so we have this 2-3 year time frame to land that first job and get settled in, and hey, now I'm a civilian, I'm not in the military anymore, I get to have my choices. But what's the dream outcome? And I think we've talked about it before, that 10-year time frame. So that brings me to the big question. And I'll explain where this question comes from, because it's actually quite useful and might be useful for every conversation we have with a military retiree. But it goes something like, now imagine again, you're kind of, you're about to go through the Blue Water cohort.
Yep.
You're one of your guys, and we would say, I'd say, hey, Mike, before we get started in this program, we tell you, hey, what this is all about. Sorry, as my mother's texting me, which always.
So you gotta take care of mom.
No, well, no, she's probably just. How do I turn the sound up?
Maybe she's watching.
Actually, she probably is. That's probably funny. But Mom, I'll get right back to you if you need it. So anyway, so back to the question is, hey Mike, before we get started and talk about the whole program and what we think you should do to help improve your outcomes, whether it's financial or getting a job. The main question is, if we were having this conversation 10 years from today, we met up again and we were looking back to today. 10 years from now, we're looking back. Hey, remember that first conversation we started talking about your retirement, what you wanted to do? Mike, my question is for you, 10 years from now, what would have to happen for you to feel like you've had success, whatever that means, both personally and professionally? And then there's a second part to this question, but that's the main. Thinking 10 years from now, what would have to happen for you as a military retiree, 06, 20 plus, 30 years for you in your case, probably about 50 years old, getting out. What is it? Knowing you're going to have to start a whole new career. It's not like you're just retiring. You got to start over in that regard. That's what this is really all about.
I think you're hitting on really those first two topics that we spend time with individuals going through, right? And we get a little bit of the eye roll on occasion, because the very first thing we want to talk to you about is, hey, what's your strategy? What are your personal mission, vision, and priorities? Because I think initially, most of us that step into transition, it is a financial thing right away, right? In other words, we all think we're going to starve. We all think, and I think for those officers that are, in a retirement window, 20 to 30 years or plus, we don't fully understand the value of our own retirement, right? We don't understand what that wealth is, or what kind of a parachute that really is for us. The second thing is, all of our pursuits, not always, but often, are geared towards the compensation, right? We want to look and we want to zero in on compensation. And I'll even take that a little bit of a step further. A lot of our members, not all, but many of them, don't understand the total compensation benefit. In other words, they just are focused on like a base pay. In other words, how much am I getting an hour? How much am I getting a year? What am I getting a month? And that's all I'm concerned about. And we educate many of our members on, there's all kinds of direct and indirect forms of compensation that are out there that are going to build quality of life for you. So that's typically the first approach that we see, right? And it has to do a lot with money. We don't fully understand, our tax shelter, right, in our uniformed life. Although we talk about it, many people address that with us, but we build this up in our mind, right, that hey, this is what I'm worth here today Therefore, some companies got to pay me that in the future. And part of the education process is that's the wrong answer to the question that our members need. And the question that they need answered is, first and foremost, what are the big rocks in your life? What are your personal mission, vision, and priorities? What's important to you in feeling fulfilled in life? And you got to put a fence around that. And that's your first step. You got to understand what that is. And people are like, well, Mike, I don't know what it is. I don't know what I want to do when I grow up or whatever. Well, we have a methodology to help you figure out what this is. But the point is, for the sake of this conversation, once you figure it out, you got to put a fence around it. Then you go and pursue, right, these opportunities that you're going to come across that you may think are good fits for you. And you can't approach it. This is what I was worth when I was wearing the uniform. Therefore, you have to pay me this much now. And you've seen all the math, and people go, well, this much tax shelter or whatever, and I'm worth this much money. The question our members need to understand, what they want answered, is not necessarily what you think you're worth, because I look them all in the eye, Scott, and I say, hey, you're worth $1 gajillion a year. And I believe that in my heart. They are. They move mountains. There's nothing that they can't do. But the question they want answered is, how much can this company compensate you in this area for doing this job? That's what you need, right? That's what you need the answer to. And then you have a decision to make. Either that helps you preserve your big rocks and your personal mission, vision, priorities, or it doesn't. And if it doesn't help you, then that's a misaligned strategy and market analysis, right? And something's got to give. Either what you're protecting's got to change, or what you're pursuing's got to change. So that's the first kind of realization of the approach, and I'll stop there. So
right, yeah. So it sounds like priority is putting food on the table, just making sure compensation's coming in, and I understand it. How are they thinking about it around that 10-year time frame, or are they thinking about that, or should they be thinking, hey, what is, you're talking about career progression? Well, if you're going to get into this, what are we looking forward to? That's what I, in the industry I'm in, you could kind of see, hey, here's how you grow your business. When you get this amount of clients, you sell these types of products or whatever, you can kind of calculate what the math's going to be. And it gets exciting. You be like, ooh, this is why I'm in it for the long term. I'm not just trying to get that, quick. So from a compensation standpoint, and really, given that there is so much uncertainty on what I'm worth and all that, is it really about a maintaining lifestyle versus an increasing lifestyle? What is kind of a purpose of the money? So that's an important question to ask as well.
Yeah, as members venture through this and they ultimately land somewhere, then the realization starts to kind of come out of them. They're like, okay, I have this retirement for those who are eligible coming in at this point, but I'm now also generating this additional revenue, right? And I really, it's like the difference from taking a math problem and going to the whiteboard, but then going out and living, this real life example and watching it, come to reality in front of your eyes. You now see, okay, I am able to generate a fair amount of wealth, and for this period of time, as long as I have this employment and this opportunity, wow, what am I going to do with this wealth, and what does that mean to me? And I think, whether it's, post landing by 4, 5, 6 months, whatever it is, members start to understand. They're like, okay, they have an ability, an accelerated ability now to supersede, right? I mean, you're generating another income basically, right? On top of your retirement, and in many instances, it can really, put your investment strategy or your saving strategy or whatever it is you happen to be involved in at that time, on steroids, right? And you watch this wealth accumulation happen very quickly. And it's kind of at that point where, people live that environment, and then they go, okay, and they start to refocus back on fit. In other words, what is generating fulfillment in my life? Is it what I thought it was? Wow, I just thought if I had a lot more revenue, I was going to sleep a lot easier in life and things were going to be great. Well, now I have that. I can see it. I see what the longevity looks like. Is that really what I was in pursuit of? Well, the answer in most cases is no. What you really were pursuing was freedom, right? In your execution to pursue those things that were going to be fulfilling to you, right? These big rocks over here that you put aside, but not necessarily tied to generation of an income. In other words, you're going to put some away for some period of time. And now if you want to go out and start your own business, now you want to go out and go, hey, I want to turn my hobby into work or work into a hobby or whatever it happens to be. Hey, I want to open up a guide service. I want to open up, I've always wanted to get in the real estate business, right? But I just didn't think, what fun things, or do you want to give back? In the case of, my own example, coming back from Amazon, Seattle, right? Okay, great. Came back here. All right. At some point, more is just more. What do we want to do? We want to build a structure, and I want to help individuals step through career progression, especially those senior leaders who are the largest underserved demographic out there. And we want to remove the fog of war and make that easier for them. And we want to do it in an environment that makes them feel comfortable, that they can be a part of. And ultimately, we can build this together. That is what I wanted to pursue. But yet I had to go through corporate life for a period of time, and then contract and consulting work here on the East Coast for a time. And then it kind of hits you, hey, this is going to work out. We're okay. Now, what do I want to pursue? Right.
What would have changed, if anything? Well, let me ask you this: before you joined Amazon and went that path, obviously you weren't planning, doing Blue Water Advisors at that time. And heck, Amazon, that whole experience is part
Absolutely.
of what allowed you to do that. But did you have any inkling of, hey, one day I'd like to start a business? I've had some ideas in my back pocket. I might have even tried some things in the past. Were you open to that at all? Just to be prepared for it, just in case? And if not, how would have things changed for the way Blue Water manifested, maybe, had you kind of just thought about it a few years earlier, just to, maybe one day I'll tap out and go on my own. I don't know. Were you thinking that way at all? Were you thinking that was going to come?
Well,
Even the consulting thing, not even Blue Water, just to be in, I call it income independence. Like, you don't need to work for somebody else unless you want to go be a contractor. Maybe you take a job for a couple years, but that's what being retired is. But you didn't want to stop, right? Until you found the thing, Blue Water. That came out of nowhere, right?
yeah. And I'll be honest with you, Blue Water, in execution, right? It was literally individuals seeking, me out or my partners out. It was just this unending stream, and COVID perhaps exacerbated this, right? But individuals, I mean, we didn't set out to have this effort, right? This startup, and but nonetheless, people kept coming. I mean, they were coming to us. Hey, who do you
Yeah.
know at this company? Hey, could you take a look at this resume? Hey,
And I think
how did
actually,
you prepare for this? So it was just a stream of people in need that just never went away until we
right.
finally, had to really sit down hard and go, man, this is a strong enough leading indicator that there's a need that's not being met here. And what are we going to do about it? Right. This is an opportunity for us.
So, and that's, I think, one of the things I think most retirees could be more open to is that over time, when you start to notice the thing that people are asking you more advice for, like, hey, maybe that's the thing that you can be useful in a way, whether that's to find a new job or to go and be more independent. So, prior to retirement, when you were thinking the 10-year mark, what did you think 10 years out from military retirement? What did you think life was going to look like? Were you still going to be working, or were you planning on doing the hard, 5 years save a lot? Yeah, what was your original kind of thoughts?
Well, I mean, I for me, and I can't say this is the same for everybody, but
Sure.
for me, it was I was going to step into this career progression time. I was going to do everything in my power to find and identify a good fit, and then I was going to, generate that income. And I think you're wise to look at this 10-year period of time. That's kind of what most people zero in on, because it's an opportunity to accelerate, your war chest, right? I
Yeah.
mean, those are your words, right? At US Net Wealth. It's a great opportunity to do that. I can continue to meet need. I can continue to preserve everything in my life, but everything that I can generate above that line, there's a period of time that I'm going to sink into the war chest, right? And most people zero in because most senior '05, junior '06s, right? And that's a large part of our demographic, zero in on, all right, I'm, 48 to 52, whatever that is. Okay. Hey, I've got about 10 years of some earning potential in front of me. The reality is, as well as I do, if you wanted to earn beyond those years, you absolutely could. Our demographic, very healthy if they want to do that. But it's a good one to initially set your sights on. And that's what a lot of them feel comfortable having that conversation in that 10-year window. But something happens along that path, right? Depending on what job you step into and how fast you're able to accelerate, your earning potential, right? All of a sudden you wake up one day and you go, man, I'm living in the house that I always wanted to live at, and I have no house payment. My wife is driving a new car. I've got my car. I have no car payments. Kids are already through school. I don't have any bills. I don't have anything. And now what? Right? I mean, you're like, how big do I need my box? And really, how big do I need the war chest to supplement and secure this lifestyle as I go forward? And I think that might be a unique conversation for all members. I don't think there's no two answers that are going to be the same, but in general,
Hmm.
right? I think along that first track of about 10 years, people realize, okay, I've maybe got more flexibility in my life than what I thought, right? I'm going to talk to smart guys like Scott. You're going to reassure me that going through these plans and these options with SBP or not SBP, or what do I do with this? Okay, the war chest is built and now you're going to be fine. But I bring it all the way back to the very first thing. What's the fit that you're seeking for? In other words, there's something in life that's going to bring you fulfillment. And I would make the argument it's not just the war chest, right? The war chest in and of
Exactly.
itself as a thing, right? That thing is not going to be what brings you fulfillment in life. It's going to be what frees you up
Exactly.
with flexibility in life for you to go pursue the thing that's going to bring you fulfillment. And it's that all happens in that, you land at a new career, and somewhere down in the first number of months, you mature in that thinking, and it now becomes clear. You can see it. You go, okay, I get this. This is how big my box needs to be. This is what it looks like. I can do this. At this point, I'm going to have the flexibility for me to do whatever it is that's going to fulfill, my bucket, right?
Yeah. I mean, wow, you couldn't have said it better. The purpose of what the war chest is for, it's to give options and flexibility without the risk and uncertainty that already happens with military transition. Entering the civilian world is,
Yeah.
scary enough when. But the good news is, hey, as a military retiree, you got a lot going for you. You got the networks, you got the pension, you got the VA disability, you got the pats on the back. Like, let's keep, whether or not you can translate your skills or not, like, directly into the next job. What I've seen is really a couple different types of people. I might not couch everybody here, but for those who don't have that kind of just, again, that, hey, I like the 10-year. I can give myself a good another 10 years. I'd like to have it figured out, whatever that means around that 10-year mark. For those who don't have it, it seems to me their intention is just simply make numbers bigger. so I can buy more car, more house. And that's how you end up with all the McMansions around DC, right? It's just, all right, I don't really have to do much in my government job. I'm 70 years old and they're still paying me good, so I'll keep going in. And there's no real plan to ever actually use the money. It's more kind of ego based, which hey, it's fine. Obviously, they're employed, so
Yeah.
if they're, as long as they're not taking somebody else's more useful job away from from another veteran. But then the 10-year guys just seem to either find that position in a company where now they're I don't know, executive level, they're doing something more where
Mhm.
they feel like they're decision maker again and control. That might be more stressful, but maybe hey, they were that kind of a military person, they just got to be working all the time. And then there's those who just kind of figure out, hey, how do I want to spend my time? And they find a way to maximize it where they actually are doing more of the things they like to do. Usually that means, friends and family, right? Hobbies and
And,
stuff,
and
or
you already
projects.
hit on this. It's different for everybody, right?
Right.
And I'm kind of going back what I said earlier, and I don't want our audience to misunderstand what I'm saying. If what brings you fulfillment in life is to seek a sweet C-suite position or a senior directorship in a major defense industry company, then pursue that if that's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
brings you happiness. But what I was trying to convey was you don't have to pursue that if at some point in time as
Don't
you're
assume
building
that
your
that's
work.
it's not like in the
Yeah,
military where it's just like here's your career path because of the rank structure. Like it's not that at all. Like we
exactly.
got to be more open to different ways of because
Being
just because you're
fulfilled.
executive doesn't mean you're making more money. Than being in a different. It all depends. There's a lot of ways to make a lot of money without a lot of responsibility.
It really does come back about those big rocks we talked about, right? Let's talk about quality of life. What you know we have a lot of members, they'll come to us and they go, hey, I've done 11 deployments, I've been married for 34 years, together for about 7, and I don't want to live my life like that anymore, and I want to pay it back to the family, and I've done all these things. I go, hey, those are great big rocks to secure here. And then they turn right around and they go, all right, I'm seeking a senior director, at blah, blah, blah. And, I'm going to be burning it at both ends. And, hey, but it's great comp, Mike. And this is awesome. But I'm like, yeah, like, wait a minute. Like, this is what you said, and this is what you're pursuing. And again, it's not for me to say one is right or
Right.
wrong. I just point out the misalignment of those discussions. And it's usually something has to change. Either what you're pursuing's got to change, or hey, this isn't as important to you as what you thought it was.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make
It's
sense?
yeah, oh, absolutely. Because I was just talking to a buddy of mine, Navy '05. He's just like, I got my next duty station list. It's either way over here in the middle of nowhere, way over there, or it's this job I don't like. And you always think of the negatives of the potential duty stations you're going to get assigned to. And again, this is the point where you can again stop following orders and create your own. So you need to reverse it and make your priorities and stick to it. Don't follow the carrots just
Yeah.
because. All right, Mike. As we close up, we'll do a little fire round with you.
Cool.
So quick
Okay.
answers here. But this is the
All right.
second part of the question. This is the second part of the main question.
Okay.
The first part, again, was, hey, if we're having this conversation 10 years from now, what would have had to happen for you to feel confident about the success, both personally and professionally? And usually that means I'm getting paid well, I'm doing something I enjoy doing, I'm spending more time with my family,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. And you've mentioned the rocks. And so that's part of this. So we probably already hit on it. But the next part of the question is, more specifically, in those next 10 years, what dangers might pop up that would derail that 10-year strategy, that success? What opportunities might pop up to enhance that success? And then what are your strengths that you can lean into? So I'm thinking, one or two quick answers. What's the main danger that pops up for retiree that derails this whole, it's called that 10-year strategy, 10-year war chest. Just be like, all right, I'm going to work, try to find something meaningful. In the meantime, sock a lot of money away, and eventually, be done, whatever that means, 10 or so years from now. What's the one thing that derails all that? do you think? Ego?
Wow, I mean, it's the biggest danger. You're making me think hard here. So, um,
Yeah.
I think it's that lake trout, right, syndrome. Some shiny object, right?
Hmm.
For some individuals, it might be pursuit of a little bit more risky of a venture than really what they're knowledgeable on pursuing. We have some members that are excited about private equity, venture capital. A lot of that kind of stuff can look really sexy on the outside, and in execution, right, when you get in there, don't misread me, it can be life changing, but it can also take a lot of time and result in, sometimes, not a lot of return. And that can be, potentially a risk to your war chest, right?
Sure.
The other thing, that might be a risk or a threat to your war chest is you don't acknowledge it, and you don't define it enough, and you think you're on, old term we use, glide slope, and now all of a sudden I realize, oh, wait a minute, this isn't a 10-year plan. It's actually, an 18-year plan, and I miscalculated, right? And for a situation like that, now you're going to ask me, what would that look like? And I'm going to tell all the listeners and the members here, go talk to Scott. He'll tell you what that is, right? Where you may, have not really thought about everything that plays into this. And that's conversations that they would have, with a trained individual like yourself that can bring clarity to some of those threats, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And most of all of those things, Scott, as well as I do, you just got to do a little bit of thinking about it, right? You don't have to obsess about it. You have to drop anchor in these worlds, but you do just have to have a little bit of awareness about it. And mostly it's about thought. It's about, what do you want your life to look like? I use the vernacular, how big do you want your box? If you want a refrigerator box, man, maybe that strategy is going to be a little bit different. But if you're happy living in the box you're living in right now, it may not be that much of a stretch for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, what comes to mind, the way you kind of mentioned, especially the chasing shiny object syndrome. That's what I have, of course. But I'm an all-in entrepreneur in the sense that I have to make the income by through finding a customer. But and so the opportunity for a military retiree to make a lot of little mistakes, just trying to have experiences, without what ends up happening is, because for a lot of sales organizations, and I don't know if private equity is always like this, but a lot of that is just go gather funds. It's kind of like raising funding for a nonprofit or for a college, being a fundraiser. You're trying to, so you got to learn those. That's what I always talk about. Hey, why aren't we learning sales and marketing skills at the military transition programs? Because yeah, it can be lucrative, but that's where you have to truly understand the
Sure.
idea of controlling the source of your income, that you are 100% responsible, for making a deal work out. So rather than jumping all in, there's ways, and you got to go explore this. This is where curiosity comes in. How are the ways I can, try to not make big, sometimes you got to throw some skin in the game. But if you're thinking as a learning experience, rather pay, this is the tuition. Maybe I invest a little bit of time into a course to learn a new skill, or some way I'm involved, getting involved in a business, or maybe I'm trying out private equity, but not going all in, having a job, a regular job, getting into real estate or financial professional world. Like, I would never tell anybody to go all in like I did, because, you need more, it's too uncertain, especially in this economy. I mean, you might be the greatest thing from sliced bread, but there's just way too many variables right now.
Yeah. There's another risk that we talk about in our cohorts, and we're all A-type personalities. We're stepping up to this time in our life, and as well as I do, everybody just wants to go. Let's just move out and let's get going in this direction. And while I absolutely applaud that self-motivated, go get them kind of attitude, you need to have the little bit of a pause, and it needs to be centered around you identifying that good fit. Because if I could generalize and stereotype our membership, the one thing, I know for sure, and again, we tell them, we go, look, I can't promise you that the first thing you pick and where you land will be the best fit for you. But I also look everybody in the eye and I say, make no mistake about it. That's the goal, right? I mean, I want you to take the time. I want you to understand what's going to be a great fit for you. And then I want you to big game hunt it, pursue it, and land it. If you understand the pedigree of the member that walked through our door, if they land someplace, there is one thing that is absolutely clear in my mind. They will not stay if they are not fulfilled. They will not spend a day longer there. If they're miserable and that individual wakes up every morning and hates what they're doing because it's not fulfilling to them, they will leave. They will find something else. And I kind of couch that into a little bit of your words like what's a danger, what's a threat out there, because that's time. That's time that you're going to thrust yourself back out. You're going to go back through the career progression process again. You're going to have to reassess what your mission, vision, priorities. You're going to reassess good fits, and then you've got to pursue it and land it. We have some really interesting data, and I can tell you how much time I think on average that's going to take you. But, if you just went through it and it was 120, 150 days, right? And then you're there for 6 months and you go, I hate this. And now you're going to thrust yourself back out into it again to go through that process again. That's time. That's time that you're not pumping into the war chest, right? And that if you skimp out on doing the steps and really putting your shoulder into understanding what's a good fit for you, you run the risk of doing that. And again, it's not enormous. There's no one-way doors in this new world. But the fact of the matter is it does remove time from your calculus, and time, as you know, right, in execution is key to building the war chest, right? So
yeah.
Anyway,
The time can sneak up on you. But that's why it's, that's why we just try to share the awareness of hey, and that's kind of gets into the last part of the question. We can roll through this real quick. What is the opportunity? We've hit on it so often. The opportunity is that more opportunities will present themselves if you allow that. If you give yourself the awareness, stay in the network. That's why you keep the network, so you can learn what is happening. Like you're gonna find, you're like, wait, you're doing what now? I didn't know that was a career. I didn't know you could. It's just that's why networking is so valuable. Just learn what other people are up to. That's why doing. Anyways, the last thing, the strengths part of this is that network. The fact that if you learn the skills and you understand what it means to get value, give value and be curious and genuinely be helpful and be well connected so that you can easily introduce people to people they're looking for. That's the strength of, having served in the military, because we just get that nice little, thing we can reference all the time. So if we want to get, that opportunity to build a war chest, so you could maybe retire early. Like if you want to truly maximize your military service, sure, you can avoid paying for SBP and all that. But the real maximization isn't just your pension. It's, how is serving in the military going to get me to that next phase of life so I could ride off into the sunset and feel like, hey, I did it. Sure. I served my country and I was a good old American. And now
you're looking for the next happens. Whatever is going to fill your bucket, right? And you're gonna find that. Yeah. So,
well, cool, man.
And we're happy that you're there to kind of answer all the hard questions. You do the math in public, Scott, and you walk them through
I'm putting together a new version of our program, and I mean this year has really been just kind of update on what we're about to launch. This year's been a big testing. Obviously, we had the book come out in our membership platform, but in presenting and designing our solution, we've kind of upgraded what our solution is, and the war chest. How do we describe that in a way that can be more useful? So I learned a lot from our seminar a few weeks ago. I've totally revamped. Got a different approach. All that stuff is always good content. Like I'm always going to use the slides, to present, and we're going to just keep doing more and more videos, whether on the portal or here on LinkedIn and YouTube. So we've got a bunch of financial topics that we're going to start rolling out and doing micro lessons and webinars and stuff. So that'll be
exciting.
We'll have it hosted and let people know how to find it. But cool. Anything else to announce for now?
Yeah, I'll probably miss you next Tuesday. Just a mental note there.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Right. So keep your fingers crossed. We're gonna, knock out another career progression cohort with our newest DC members, right, on next Wednesday, the 27th, right? So we're excited to do that. And but then we'll be back down in the woods as we start to track towards our October Norfolk event. And I'm looking at the whiteboard behind me. Dude, we've only got 2 open seats for the rest of the year, right? So
wow.
If there's anybody out there looking to kind of plug in with this US Vet Wealth and Blue Water kind of team, right? This is as current, relevant, incredible as it gets, and don't delay, right? Register. These seats go quickly. We will be generating a 2024 schedule here very soon. But until then, if you're looking to get in this year, don't wait. It's going to fill. It's almost already.
Yeah. Well, all right, man. Well, then, safe travels next week. And I guess will it be October already by then? Holy cow.
I know. Can you believe it? Yep. It's
getting weird.
The year's gone, man.
Yeah.
Fall is here.
Anyways.
Looking forward to it.
I'm about to jump. We're going to do a live training inside our portal. Just let people know that's what we do inside the Military Retirement Blueprint. It's a platform for additional education. I'm going to do one right at 4 p.m. Today, but you can always go in and watch the recordings at militaryretirementblueprint.com. And that's where we'll also be hosting once we get it launched. But the networking accelerator program that I wanna work on with Mike to, how do we, what are the 4 pillars of networking so that we can take advantage of all those benefits we just talked about. Hey, you're a military retiree. I need to network so I can get my name out there, but also learn what else is out there to do. That's the advantages of it. You can strategize it, how you do it. So I'm excited to add that value to your members, to my clients, to other people out there. It's a no-brainer.
I love it. Appreciate your partnership. Yeah, it's awesome. We love it.
Yes, sir. All right. Man. We'll see you. Take care.
Okay.